The metal floor was cold under Do-hyun's boots. He walked slowly through the dark corridors of level 9, pushing his cleaning cart. The wheels squeaked with each step. It was 3 in the morning, station time. Most beings were asleep. This was when Do-hyun worked. He had been doing this job for 3 years now. 3 long years on Vex Prime Station, far from Earth, far from home. The aliens who ran this place barely looked at him. To them, humans were nothing special. Just another weak species. Good enough to clean floors and fix pipes, but not much else. Do-hyun didn't mind the quiet. Back on Earth, he had been a teacher. He loved children. He loved seeing them learn and grow. But Earth needed people in space, and he had volunteered. He thought he might teach alien children someday. Instead, they gave him a mop and a cart. He hummed softly as he worked. An old song his mother used to sing. The sound echoed in the empty hallway. He wiped down the walls, checked the air vents, picked up trash that the day workers had left behind. Simple work, honest work. Near the cargo bay, he heard something strange. A small sound. Like crying, but not quite. Do-hyun stopped pushing his cart. He listened carefully. There it was again. Soft and weak. He followed the sound around a corner. The temperature dropped suddenly. Ice formed on the walls here. The thermal seal on the cargo bay door must be broken again. He had reported it twice already. Nobody fixed it. Then he saw her, a small creature curled against the wall. She had gray scales that shimmered even in the dim light. 4 legs tucked under her body, a long tail wrapped around herself. Her eyes were closed. Frost covered her scales. Do-hyun's heart jumped. He recognized this species, Scaroth. They were one of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Adults could tear through steel with their claws. This was just a cub, maybe 4 years old, but still deadly. The smart thing would be to walk away. Call security. Let them handle it. Humans weren't supposed to touch other species, especially not predators, especially not their children. But Do-hyun had been a teacher. He knew what a dying child looked like. The cub's breathing was too shallow. Her scales were turning white from the cold. In a few more minutes, she would be dead. Security wouldn't come in time. They never rushed for anything on level 9. Do-hyun knelt down slowly. The cub didn't move. He took off his blue work jacket, the one with the maintenance patch on the sleeve. The jacket was old and worn, but it had a good thermal lining. It kept him warm during the long night shifts. Carefully, very carefully, he wrapped the jacket around the small body. The cub's eyes snapped open. Amber eyes, bright and fierce even in her weakness. She hissed at him. Her tiny teeth were sharp. Do-hyun didn't pull away. He had worked with scared children before. Fear made them lash out. He just kept wrapping the jacket around her, tucking it gently around her legs and tail. The warmth from the jacket reached her frozen body. The cub stopped hissing. She looked at him with those strange amber eyes, confused, suspicious, but she didn't fight anymore. Do-hyun sat down beside her. His shirt wasn't warm enough without the jacket. The cold bit into his skin. He ignored it. Instead, he started rubbing the cub's limbs through the jacket. Slow, gentle movements, trying to get her blood flowing again. He began to hum, the same song from before. His mother's lullaby. He didn't know if the cub could even hear music the way humans did. But it felt right. Slowly, the cub's scales started to lose their white frost. Color returned. Her breathing got stronger. She watched him the whole time. Never blinking, never looking away. Time passed. Do-hyun didn't know how long. His hands were numb from the cold. His shirt was soaked with sweat despite the freezing air. But the cub was alive. That was what mattered. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Lots of them, running. Do-hyun looked up and saw lights approaching. Security drones floated ahead, their scanners sweeping the area. Behind them came Minho, the human security chief. He was older than Do-hyun, with gray in his hair and tired eyes. Behind Minho walked something that made Do-hyun's breath catch, a massive Scaroth, 7 feet tall, covered in dark scales marked with scars. His eyes glowed the same amber as the cub's. This had to be Commander Vex. Everyone on the station knew about him. He led the Predator Council. He made the rules that kept humans in their place. Commander Vex saw the cub wrapped in human clothing. He saw Do-hyun sitting calmly beside her. His claws extended. A low growl rumbled from his throat. Minho stepped between them quickly. His hand moved to his weapon. Not pointing it, just ready. Commander Vex ignored Minho. He moved toward the cub, toward his niece, Do-hyun realized. The way he moved, the fear in those fierce eyes. This was family. The commander reached down to pick up the cub. She should have gone to him immediately. That's what Scaroth Young did. They obeyed the adults of their clan without question, but the cub didn't move. Her small claws gripped the blue jacket tighter. She made a small sound. Not quite a hiss. More like a protest. Commander Vex froze. He stared at the cub, then at Do-hyun, then back at the cub. Something like confusion crossed his scarred face. Finally, he lifted the cub anyway. She was too weak to resist. But she kept the jacket. Her claws had punched small holes in it, holding on. The commander looked at Do-hyun for a long moment. His eyes were hard to read. Anger, confusion, maybe both. He opened his mouth. His translator device clicked on, but he said nothing. He just turned and walked away, carrying the cub. His guards followed. Minho let out a long breath. He looked at Do-hyun and shook his head. They went to security for questions. Standard procedure, Minho said. The questions were simple. What happened? Why did you approach a predator cub? Did anyone tell you to do this? Do-hyun answered honestly. He found her dying. He helped her. No one told him to do anything. He just couldn't walk away. They let him go after an hour. No punishment, no reward. Just a note in his file. Human worker had contact with Scaroth Juvenile. Incident closed. Do-hyun walked back to the human quarters. His shift was over. The sun panels were starting to brighten, simulating morning. Other humans were waking up, heading to their jobs. A few stared at him. News traveled fast on the station. The human who touched a predator cub. Some looked worried. Others looked impressed. Most just looked away. He reached his door. His small room with its narrow bed and single window showing the stars. He was so tired. His body ached from the cold and stress. He didn't notice the ventilation grate above his door. Didn't see the small amber eyes watching from the darkness. Didn't know that the cub had followed his scent through the station's air system. Do-hyun went inside and fell asleep immediately. He dreamed of children, of his old classroom on Earth, of small hands reaching for help. Outside his door in the corridor, something small and gray settled down to sleep. The blue jacket was still wrapped around her. She could still smell the human who saved her. The one who was warm when everything else was cold. The one who helped when no one else came. The station continued its endless rotation through space. Thousands of beings lived and worked and slept, each in their proper place according to ancient rules. None of them knew that everything was about to change. That one simple act of kindness was about to crack the foundations of the way things had always been. It started with a jacket. It started with a human who couldn't walk away from a child in need. It started with warmth in the cold. Do-hyun woke to pounding on his door. He sat up confused. The light from his window showed it was still early morning. He had only been asleep for 3 hours. The pounding came again. Harder this time. He stumbled to the door and opened it. 3 humans stood there. All neighbors from his floor. Their faces were pale. Behind them, other doors were opening. People were looking out, pointing. Do-hyun looked down. The Scaroth cub was sleeping right outside his door, curled in a tight ball. His blue jacket was folded neatly beside her like an offering. His heart stopped. This was impossible. The cub should be with her family. With Commander Vex, she shouldn't be here. She couldn't be here, but she was. The cub's eyes opened slowly. Those amber eyes found him immediately. She made a soft chirping sound, almost happy. Her tail swished once. One of the neighbors grabbed Do-hyun's arm. Her name was Yoonji. She worked in food services. Yoonji spoke in a harsh whisper. You need to call security. Right now. Before someone thinks you're keeping her prisoner. Before they blame all of us, Do-hyun nodded. He was already reaching for his communication device. But before he could use it, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Everyone turned. Commander Vex appeared. 2 guards flanked him. They were all armed. The humans in the corridor backed away quickly, returning to their rooms. Doors closed. Locks clicked. Only Do-hyun remained. He stood in his doorway, watching the massive Scaroth approach. The commander stopped a few feet away. He looked at the cub, then at Do-hyun. His translator clicked on. What have you done to her? The words were cold, dangerous. Do-hyun kept his voice calm. Nothing. I woke up and found her here. I was about to call security. Commander Vex stared at him for a long moment. Then he knelt beside the cub. He reached out to her. "Come, Kira, we go home now." The cub looked at him. Then she looked at Do-hyun. She picked up the blue jacket in her small jaws. She walked past her uncle. She walked to Do-hyun and dropped the jacket at his feet. Then she sat down, right there, between Do-hyun and the commander. She wasn't going anywhere. Commander Vex's claws extended. His scales rippled. Do-hyun had never seen a Scaroth look so confused. So thrown off balance, one of the guards spoke. "Commander, should we remove the human? Perhaps he has used some chemical on the young one." "No." Commander Vex's voice was quiet. "Contact medical. Send for the human doctor." 20 minutes later, Hana arrived. She was young for a doctor, only 28. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. She worked too many shifts in the medical bay. But her hands were steady as she approached the cub. Hana had a scanner. She moved it over Kira's body slowly. The cub allowed it. She seemed calm with Hana nearby. Maybe because Hana was human too. Maybe because Hana moved gently. After several minutes, Hana looked up at Commander Vex. "There's no drug contamination, no chemical influence. Her stress hormones are actually lower than yesterday. Her neural activity shows healthy patterns. If anything, she's better now than before." The commander's translator crackled with static. He was trying to process this, explain. Hana took a breath. She knew she was taking a risk, speaking directly to the Predator Council leader. But this was important. Kira experienced severe trauma, separation from her family, nearly freezing to death. For a young mind, that creates lasting fear. "Your worker here," she gestured to Do-hyun. "He provided comfort during that trauma." Her brain associated him with safety, with warmth, with survival. She paused. Humans call it attachment. When a child bonds with a caregiver who protects them, it's a survival instinct. Commander Vex's voice was flat. "Scaroth young do not attach to prey species." Hana met his eyes. "With respect, Commander, the evidence suggests otherwise." The silence stretched. Then Commander Vex stood. He looked at Do-hyun one more time. "Keep your door locked, human. If she returns again, you will contact me immediately." He lifted Kira despite her protests. This time he didn't let her keep the jacket. He handed it back to Do-hyun. Then he left. Hana stayed behind. She watched them go. Then she turned to Do-hyun. "You know this is going to cause problems." Do-hyun nodded. "I didn't ask for this, I know." Hana's voice was softer now. "But you might have just changed everything. Cubs don't cross species lines. Not like this. People will talk, they already are." Do-hyun looked down the corridor. Every door had closed, but he could feel eyes watching through the cracks. Hana pulled out her communication device. "Here's my contact. If anything happens, call me. I want to monitor this." "For science," she added quickly. This could be important research, but her eyes said something else. They said she cared. They said she wanted to help. Do-hyun took the contact information. "Thank you." Hana left. Do-hyun tried to sleep again. He couldn't. His mind was too active. So he got up and went to his next shift early. The day passed in whispers. Everywhere he went, beings stopped talking when he approached. Aliens and humans alike. He was marked now. The human who somehow made a predator cub follow him. Minho found him during lunch. The security chief looked tired. He sat down across from Do-hyun in the human cafeteria. "You need to be careful." Minho spoke quietly. "The Predator Council is watching you now. One wrong move and they'll use it as an excuse to restrict all humans. I'm just doing my job." Do-hyun eyed his food slowly. "I'm not trying to cause trouble, I know." Minho rubbed his face. "But trouble found you anyway." That night, Do-hyun locked his door like Commander Vex ordered. He went to sleep hoping everything would calm down, hoping the cub would forget about him. He woke to soft sounds outside. Multiple soft sounds. Chirping. Clicking. Small movements. His door was still locked, but something was definitely out there. He accessed the corridor camera from his room terminal. 3 cubs slept outside his door. Kira was there, still wrapped in his blue jacket. Beside her was a small insectoid creature with multiple legs, and a bird-like being with a broken wing. Do-hyun stared at the screen. This was impossible. 3 different species. 3 predator species that should be natural enemies, all sleeping together in a pile outside his door. Word spread faster this time. By morning, the entire station knew. The human in level 9 housing had 3 predator cubs sleeping at his door. Cubs that shouldn't even tolerate each other. The Predator Council called an emergency meeting. Minho was summoned. Hana was summoned. Do-hyun waited in his room, watching the cubs through his camera. They didn't fight. They didn't attack each other. They just slept peacefully in a small pile. Something was changing on the station. Something the rules and hierarchies couldn't explain. It started with one human who couldn't walk away from a freezing child. It grew into something nobody expected, and it was only the beginning. 1 week passed, then 2. The cubs kept coming. First it was 3, then 5, then 8. All different species. All young. All damaged in ways their own people either didn't see or didn't care about. Tiska was the insectoid. Her hive had rejected her because one of her legs didn't work right. She clicked sadly when she moved. But she could still play. She could still learn. Garen was the bird. His wing never healed properly from a fall. His murder called him useless. They left him behind when they migrated to better feeding grounds. But his eyes were bright. He was smart. More came. A small mammal whose fur was the wrong color. A reptile who was too small for his age. Young ones who didn't fit the standards their species demanded. They all found their way to Do-hyun's door. Every night, like they could smell safety, like they knew this was the one place they wouldn't be turned away. Do-hyun couldn't turn them away. He tried at first. He would close his door and ignore them, but he could hear them outside. Small sounds of confusion, of sadness. It reminded him too much of the children he used to teach, the ones who came to school hungry, the ones whose parents forgot to pick them up. So he started leaving things outside his door. Thermal blankets that were marked as damaged but still worked fine. Food rations that were close to expiration but perfectly safe. He told himself it was just waste disposal, just part of his maintenance duties, but it was more than that. He knew it, everyone knew it. Hana came by often now. She said it was for research. She would scan the cubs, check their health, take notes on her datapad. But Do-hyun noticed she always came during his breaks. She always brought 2 cups of coffee from the human cafeteria. They would sit in his small room and watch the cubs through the camera. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. Her research was showing amazing things. The cubs' stress levels dropped every night they spent near Do-hyun's door. They slept better. They fought less. Even their physical health improved. Broken bones healed faster. Infections cleared up. It was like their bodies could finally relax enough to fix themselves. Hana tried to present her findings to the medical board. The alien doctors laughed at her. One of them, a tall crystalline being, told her that predators don't need emotional care. They need strength training and discipline. Her research was rejected. She came to Do-hyun's room that night looking defeated. Her eyes were red but dry. She had learned not to cry in front of aliens. It made them dismiss humans even more. Do-hyun made her tea. It wasn't good tea. The station only had basic supplies. But it was warm and familiar. She held the cup in both hands and stared at nothing. They told me I'm wasting time. Hana's voice was quiet. They said emotional attachment is a prey species weakness, that I'm trying to make predators soft. Do-hyun sat beside her. Are the cubs healthy? Yes, healthier than before. Measurably healthier. Then you're not wasting time. He said it simply. Like it was obvious, Hana looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who spent his nights mopping floors and his free time caring for alien children who weren't his responsibility. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it for reward. He did it because it was right. Something warm bloomed in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in the 3 years since leaving Earth. Connection, understanding, hope. Thank you. She meant it for more than just the words. The cubs started following Do-hyun on his rounds. Not close. They kept about 10 meters back. Just watching, learning. Kira led them always. She seemed to understand which areas were safe and which weren't. Other workers started noticing. Aliens would stop and stare. A human with predator cubs trailing behind him like ducklings. It was wrong. It broke every social rule on the station. Some beings were angry. They complained to management. They said the cubs were a safety hazard. They said Do-hyun was manipulating them somehow. But some beings were curious. Prey species workers especially. They watched from a distance. They saw the cubs playing, saw them sleeping peacefully, saw them choosing to be near a human who never forced them to do anything. Then came the incident. A vril administrator was doing inspections. His name was Crix. He had always looked down on humans. He saw Do-hyun in the corridor with the cubs following behind. Crix ordered security drones to disperse the cubs. Safety violation, he declared. Traffic obstruction. The drones moved forward, beeping warnings. The cubs panicked. They clustered together, frightened. Kira hissed. Tiska's legs trembled. Garen spread his broken wing, trying to look bigger than he was. Do-hyun saw their fear. He saw the drones approaching. He saw Crix watching with satisfaction. He didn't think. He just moved. Do-hyun walked between the drones and the cubs. Then he sat down, right there in the middle of the corridor. He didn't speak, didn't threaten, just made himself a wall of human flesh between danger and the small beings who trusted him. The drones stopped. They weren't programmed to handle this. They hovered uncertainly. Crix's mandibles clicked in anger. Move, human. You are obstructing security operations. Do-hyun didn't move. He just looked at Crix. His eyes were calm but firm. Behind him, the cubs had stopped panicking. They pressed close to his back. Drawing comfort from his presence, someone was recording. The footage spread through the station networks in minutes. A human maintenance worker sitting calmly while security drones buzzed around him, predator cubs sheltering behind him, choosing a prey species protector over submission to authority. Minho arrived within minutes. He assessed the situation quickly. He ordered the drones to stand down. He spoke quietly to Crix. The administrator left, clicking angrily with every step. Later, Minho sat with Do-hyun in the security office. You're making waves. Big ones, I know. Do-hyun's voice was tired. But what else can I do? Leave them to be afraid? Minho didn't answer. He just pulled up the security footage again. He watched it 3 times. Finally, he spoke. I have a daughter. Back on Earth, haven't seen her in 3 years. She's 8 now. Do-hyun waited. I came to space because they needed security personnel, because the pay was good, because I thought I could make a better life for her. Minho's hands clenched. But watching this, watching you, I think I forgot what actually matters. He looked at Do-hyun. Keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep the drones away. That night, Hana came to check on the cubs. She found them all sleeping in their usual pile. But this time they were arranged differently. They had made a space in the center. A space just the right size for a human. Do-hyun and Hana stood together, watching through the camera. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Hana said what they were both thinking. This is going to change everything, isn't it? Do-hyun didn't know. He just knew he couldn't stop now. Somewhere along the way, these cubs had become his responsibility, his students, his children in a way, and a teacher never abandons their students. No matter what the cost. The Kraloth warship arrived without warning. It was massive, dwarfing even the largest trade vessels docked at Vex Prime Station. Its hull was black metal covered in weapons. A ship built for war. War Master Krill stepped off his ship like he owned the station. His species was old, ancient predators who believed the galaxy belonged to the strong. He wore battle armor covered in scars. Each scar was a trophy, proof of conquered enemies. He had come for trade negotiations, mining rights in a contested sector. But he had heard stories. Stories about Vex Prime Station, about predator cubs following a prey species human, about weakness infecting the Predator Council. Krill demanded to see these cubs, to prove they had been corrupted by human tricks, to demonstrate what real predator leadership looked like. The Predator Council couldn't refuse. To refuse would show weakness. To refuse would suggest they were afraid of what he might prove. Commander Vex sat in the council chamber and watched the vote happen. Every member voted to allow the demonstration. Even him, he had no choice. But his claws gouged marks in the table. Minho came to Do-hyun's quarters late that night. His face was grim. You need to stay in the human habitat for the next 2 days. Direct order. Do-hyun looked up from his small kitchen. Why? Because a Kraloth Warmaster wants to test the cubs, and I don't want you anywhere near that. Minho's hand rested on his weapon. The Kraloth don't like humans. They especially don't like humans who make them question their beliefs. What about the cubs? Do-hyun's voice was quiet but firm. They'll be fine. Minho didn't sound convinced, just scared. But they'll survive, Do-hyun wanted to argue. But Minho's eyes held a warning. This wasn't a request. It was an order backed by force. If Do-hyun didn't cooperate, Minho would lock him in. For his own protection. So Do-hyun stayed inside. The door was sealed from the outside. He could see out through his window, could access the station network. But he couldn't leave. The cubs didn't understand. They came to his door that first night and found it sealed. Kira scratched at it. The others called out in their various languages. Confusion, worry. Where was the warm human? Where was safety? Do-hyun pressed his hand against the door from the inside. He could hear them, could hear Kira's small whimpers, but he couldn't open it, couldn't explain, couldn't comfort them. Eventually they scattered, searching the station, looking for him in all the usual places, finding nothing. Hana monitored their stress levels remotely. She watched the numbers climb, watched the cubs' heartbeats accelerate, watched their sleep cycles collapse. She sent urgent messages to the medical board. They ignored her. The demonstration was scheduled for the second day. Central Plaza. News crews from across the sector would record it. War Master Krill wanted maximum exposure. Security drones herded the cubs into the plaza, all 8 of them, small and confused, looking for Do-hyun in the crowd. Not finding him, War Master Krill stood before them, massive, armored, radiating dominance. "This is what young predators need," he announced to the cameras. "Not soft prey species coddling. Strength, authority, fear," he roared. A sound designed to make prey species run, designed to make young predators submit. The cubs scattered. Tiska tried to hide behind a support pillar. Garen flapped his broken wing uselessly. Kira backed away, hissing weakly. "See?" Krill gestured broadly. "They respond to proper dominance. The human has made them weak, uncertain. They will need months of retraining to be proper predators again." Do-hyun watched on his room terminal. He watched the cubs cower, watched them search desperately for him, watched Kira's amber eyes fill with betrayal. He couldn't watch anymore. The door was sealed electronically, but Do-hyun had been a maintenance worker for 3 years. He knew systems. He knew backdoors. Minyo had taught him some. The rest he figured out himself. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Alarms would trigger. Security would know, but Do-hyun didn't care anymore. He walked through the corridors, past surprised humans, past staring aliens, toward the central plaza. Toward his students, Minho saw the alarm. He knew immediately what Do-hyun had done. He could stop him. Should stop him. But instead, Minho cleared the security checkpoints, made sure no drones intercepted. Hana saw Do-hyun on the security feeds. She ran from her medical bay. Not to stop him, to follow him, to stand with him whatever happened next. The central plaza was packed. Thousands of beings watching the demonstration. War Master Krill was still speaking, still demonstrating dominance techniques. The cubs were pressed against the far wall now, trapped, scared. Do-hyun entered the plaza. He didn't look impressive, just a human in a maintenance uniform, cleaning supplies still on his belt, small, insignificant. But Kira saw him. Her head snapped up. Her amber eyes locked onto him. She made a sound, a chirp of pure relief. Do-hyun walked to the center of the plaza, to the space between the cubs and War Master Krill. He didn't speak. He just sat down, cross-legged on the cold floor. And he opened his arms. The plaza went silent. Thousands of beings held their breath. Kira broke first. She ran to him, crashed into his chest, her whole body shaking with relief. The blue jacket was still tied around her. She had never let it go. Tiska clicked over. Then Garen hopped forward. One by one, all 8 cubs clustered around Do-hyun, pressing close, purring, chirping, making their various sounds of happiness and relief. War Master Krill stared. This wasn't possible. Predator cubs didn't choose prey. They didn't run to weakness. They submitted to strength, but here they were, choosing, running toward a small human who offered nothing but gentleness. Krill's anger surged. He moved toward the group, toward Do-hyun. If he could separate them, if he could prove the human had used tricks, if he could reassert dominance, Kira saw him coming. She turned, placed herself between Do-hyun and the War Master. Her small body tensed, her claws extended. She was 4 years old. She was scared, but she hissed anyway. The other cubs followed her lead. Tiska raised her front legs in a threat display. Garen spread his broken wing as wide as it would go. All 8 cubs formed a circle around Do-hyun. They were protecting him. Small, weak, Damaged cubs. Protecting a prey species human from a fully armed war master. Commander Vex stood. His voice cut through the plaza like a blade. Enough. He walked down from the council viewing platform. Walked past War Master Krill. Walked to where Do-hyun sat surrounded by cubs. The demonstration is over. Vex looked at Krill. These cubs are under Scaroth protection. The testing ends now. Krill's mandibles clicked in fury. You protect weakness. You allow prey to corrupt your young. You shame all predators. Commander Vex looked at Kira. At his young niece standing brave despite her fear. At the other cubs. At Do-hyun, who asked for nothing but gave everything. No. Vex's voice was certain. I'm finally seeing what strength really means. Cameras recorded everything. The footage spread across the galaxy within hours. Young predators defending a human. A Scaroth commander defying a Kryloth war master. Everything changing in one moment. Do-hyun sat in the center of it all. Cubs pressed against him. Safe now, together. He caught Hana's eye in the crowd. She smiled. Tears on her cheeks, but happy tears this time. Sometimes strength wasn't about roaring the loudest. Sometimes it was about sitting quietly and opening your arms. Sometimes it was about showing up even when you were scared. Sometimes it was about choosing kindness when everyone else chose cruelty. That was human strength. That was what the galaxy hadn't understood. Until now. The footage changed everything. Within days, it reached every corner of the galactic collective. A human sitting peacefully, cubs defending him. A commander choosing protection over dominance. War Master Krill withdrew his delegation. He called Vex Prime Station corrupted, weak. But his own crews had seen the footage. Some questioned. Some wondered. Seeds of doubt planted in the oldest predator empire. Commander Vex called an emergency council meeting. But not to punish Do-hyun. Instead, he proposed something radical. A youth development center, run by both predator and prey species, with the human as lead coordinator. The council argued for hours. This violated tradition, broke hierarchy, changed everything, but the cubs were healthy, measurably healthy, and 8 different species parents had watched their rejected young thrive under human care. They couldn't deny the evidence. The vote was close. But it passed. 6 months later, the center opened. Level 7 renovated and bright. Real windows showing the stars. Soft surfaces. Climbing structures. Learning spaces. Medical facilities run by Hana. More humans came to staff it. Teachers, therapists, care workers. People who understood that young beings needed more than just food and shelter. They needed patience, understanding, love. 23 cubs attended now. From 14 different species. All outcasts. All damaged. All finding their way back to health. Do-hyun still kept his maintenance certification. He insisted on it. 3 days a week he cleaned the center himself. The cubs helped sometimes. Tiska was surprisingly good at organizing supplies. Garen could spot dust in high corners with his sharp eyes, but mostly he taught. Real teaching again. Not Earth subjects, but universal ones. How to communicate across species. How to solve problems together. How to be strong without being cruel. Hana worked alongside him. Their partnership had grown beyond professional. They spent evenings together now. Sometimes planning curriculum. Sometimes just talking. Sometimes in comfortable silence. One night, sitting in the center's common room after all the cubs had gone home, Hana leaned against his shoulder. Her head fit perfectly there. Did you ever imagine this? She asked quietly. Back when you were mopping floors alone? Do-hyun thought about it. No. I just knew I couldn't let her freeze. Hana smiled. One simple choice. Look what it built. We built it, he corrected. You and me and Minho and Vex and all the others who chose to help. She lifted her head to look at him. Her eyes held something warm. Something hopeful. We make a good team, we do. He meant it. Meant more than just the work. Their hands found each other. Held. 2 humans far from Earth. Building something new together. Something better. Commander Vex changed the most. He traveled to Earth with Kira. Wanted to understand the planet that made beings like Do-hyun. They visited Korea. Small mountain villages where children played freely. Where old and young cared for each other. Vex watched human grandmothers feed neighborhood children who weren't their own. Watched teachers stay late to help struggling students. Watched strangers help strangers without expecting payment. He finally understood. Humans had evolved differently. Their survival strategy wasn't individual strength. It was collective care. and it made them powerful in ways the galaxy had never valued until now. He returned to Vex Prime determined to change Scaroth culture, to stop culling weak young, to value emotional intelligence alongside physical strength. It was a long fight, but Kira stood beside him, living proof that different didn't mean defective. Other stations requested help, wanted to build their own centers, wanted human educators. The cubs who grew up in Do-Yun's care became ambassadors. They returned to their home worlds with new ideas, new possibilities. Change spread slowly, not everywhere, not quickly, but steadily. Like water wearing down stone, the rigid hierarchies began to soften. Prey species gained better positions, more respect, humans especially. They became known as the emotional intelligence specialists, the ones who could bridge species gaps through empathy. Minho was promoted to station security commander, the first human to hold such a position. He earned it through 3 years of solid work. But the door opened because Do-Hyun showed what humans could do. Minho's daughter came to visit. She was 11 now, old enough to understand why Daddy worked so far away. She met Do-Hyun and the cubs, watched them play together. Different species, natural enemies, all friends now. She looked up at her father. "This is what you helped protect?" Minho nodded. "Worth it?" She hugged him. "Worth it." 3 years after the cold night in the corridor, Do-Hyun still did maintenance rounds. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Keeping the center clean was meditation, honest work, grounding. One night, doing his usual rounds, he heard a familiar sound. Soft crying, weak whimpering. He followed it around a corner. Found a small being curled against a wall. A species he didn't recognize. 4 eyes, crystalline skin. Shivering in temperature that was comfortable for most but too cold for this child. Do-Hyun didn't hesitate. He took off his jacket, the same blue jacket with the maintenance patch. Kira had returned it years ago. He still wore it on rounds. He wrapped the jacket around the shivering cub. Sat down beside them, started humming his mother's lullaby, waiting for help to arrive, providing warmth and comfort until then. The cub's parents found them 30 minutes later. They were new to the station. Didn't know about the center yet. Didn't know about the human who helped lost children, but they learned. Word spread fast now. If you needed help, if your child was lost or scared or different, find the human janitor. He would help. Always. That night, Do-Hyun returned to his quarters. Not the small room in level 9 anymore. He had a proper apartment now, near the center. Hana lived 2 doors down, or sometimes in his apartment, or sometimes he stayed in hers. They were figuring it out together. He looked out his window at the stars, thought about Earth, about the children he'd taught there, about the path that led him here. He didn't regret coming to space anymore. This was where he needed to be, teaching again, helping again, making a difference in ways he never imagined. Outside the center, 37 cubs from 19 species slept peacefully. Guards watched over them, both predator and prey species working together, protecting the next generation. Kira was grown now, a young adult. She helped at the center 3 days a week, teaching younger cubs, showing them that being different was okay, that there were beings who would help without expecting anything in return. She still had the blue jacket, kept it in her sleeping den. A reminder, a treasure, the first gift, the first warmth, the first proof that the galaxy could be kind. Do-Hyun pulled his current jacket tighter. It was getting old, worn. The patch was fading, but it still worked. Still kept him warm on long night shifts. Still wrapped around shivering children who needed help. He thought about getting a new jacket. But this one had history, had meaning, had saved lives. Maybe he'd keep it a while longer. The station rotated through space. Thousands of beings living and working together. The hierarchy still existed, but it was softer now. More flexible. Room for kindness in the gaps. It started with one cold night. One freezing cub. One human who couldn't walk away. One simple act of warmth. And it changed everything, because that's what humans did. They cared when no one else would. They helped when help wasn't expected. They showed the galaxy that strength came in many forms. Sometimes the strongest thing you could do was open your arms, offer your jacket, sit down beside someone who was scared, stay when everyone else walked away. That was humanity's gift to the stars. Not weapons, not technology, not physical power, but compassion, understanding, the courage to care. And in a cold, harsh galaxy, that warmth meant everything.